Well, while seated in the chair, or lying on my bed, my consciousness followed vision. And I entered that room. I actually occupied it. I came back to where I was seated on one occasion, to where I was lying on my bed on another. And then I went back. And again, it took on a cubic reality. I came back knowing exactly what I am doing. I knowing this whole thing makes no sense whatsoever to the rational mind. For I could not deny what I am experiencing. Here I have the evidence. No one to share it with, but I have the evidence. I came back and I went back into the picture. And the moment I entered the picture, it took on cubic reality. And after doing it maybe a dozen or more times, I said to myself, I'm going to explore. This time I'm going to go right into it and remain there and explore, which I did. So I stepped into the picture, and as it closed around me, from my bed it seemed to be 30 by 20. But when I stepped into it, determined this time to keep going, regardless of consequences, it closed around me a third of what it seemed to be as I looked at it from the bed. So 30 by 20 became 10 by 7. I found it to be a dressing room. A dressing room with a huge, wonderful suite ready for occupancy. No one was in it. I'm the only occupant now. I came out by opening up a door. I didn't go through it. By some vapor, I actually opened the door. And to myself, I was solidly real. Just like the man that is talking to you now. My hand could open a door. And the door was solid and it was real, and I went through the door. I entered a corridor. It was a nice wide corridor, dimly lit. At the end of the corridor, intersecting it, was a brilliantly lit corridor. I walked down to the very end, and when I got to the end, here is this luminous, wonderful corridor. I saw two ladies coming down the corridor. I knew exactly what I was doing. I knew how it began. It began by seeing what seemed to me just a vision, like a painting. I knew that I left my bed, my consciousness following vision, and I entered the painting, and the painting took on cubic reality. I knew it, so I called that a dream. Knowing it began as a dream, I said to myself, well, it has still to be a dream. But I am dreaming now awake. I am not dreaming, sleeping. I am fully awake, but it is a dream. And I said to the ladies as they came by, ladies, this is all a dream. They did exactly what any nice ladies would do, a stranger standing in a corridor and saying to them, this whole thing is a dream. They thought they were looking at a madman. So they got as far removed from me as they could and got right next to the wall. But the wall was as solidly real as that wall. They couldn't go through it any more than I could. And while looking at them, and they're frightened to death, they walked quickly by, and then I saw something hanging like a chandelier. It reminded me of an object that I'd seen about 6 months before in a friend's home. And he said to me, see, you can hardly tell that this thing is not suspended. If you look closely, there is an almost invisible thread that connects it to the ceiling. So I looked, and I did see that very little thin thread connecting this to the ceiling. Then I was convinced, well, it is a dream. This is a memory image of what I saw in my friend's home. So again I said to the ladies, look, this must be all gossamer. But as I held it, it was solidly real. It was just as solid as this. That surprised me. They kept on moving, and they moved rapidly towards the end. And here I am holding this thing in my hand. I took my hand off, and I said to myself, now you know it began as a dream, Neville, and there still has to be a dream. All ends run through to origins, and the origin of this experience of yours was a dream. So this must be a dream, but it is not a dream. I am just as awake as I am now talking to you, as I was talking to those ladies. When they got to the end, they looked back at this mad person in their eyes. I was mad, and they simply disappeared by stepping down a few steps into what undoubtedly was the great reception room, the foyer, our huge big hotel. Then I say to myself, you know, how are you going to get back? How are you going to get back? There is no road leading back to that bed on which you left a body. And you have unfinished business. You have a wife and an uneducated daughter who has the ambitions to go to college. And she's now only in high school, and you have left inadequate funds to take care of your obligations to your wife and daughter. You've got to get back. How to get back? I couldn't go through that door that led from that suite of rooms into the corridor and find any exit from there back to where I lived in Beverly Hills. What on earth am I going to do? I knew, reason told me that if I don't get back, within a very short time, they'll find that body on the bed, and they will have to examine it, and they will declare it a heart attack or something, but they've got to find a physical cause for it. And here I am looking at something entirely different. It will die all right if I don't get back. And I must get back. Then I remembered a similar experience that happened years before, where feeling brought me back. Feeling awoke me in a dream. I found myself on a beach. It wasn't Barbados. It was more like the Pacific Islands. I haven't been there, but I've been born in the tropics, so I know exactly what they must look like. But it was not the West Indies. It was the East Indies. And here I know I am dreaming. And I thought to myself, I wonder if I held a physical object and forced myself to awake, if I would awake. Well, I tried it. I held on to a pile driven into the ocean, into the beach, a solid mass of cement. As I held it, I said, I'm not going to let go. I'm going to awake right here. So I held it. And as I held it, I said, come on, awake. You know you're dreaming. And I felt myself come to, as a person comes to when they're waking in the morning. And I woke. And there I am, completely awake, wading in the water and holding on to this object. Then I went towards the beach. And a strange, peculiar animal approached me. And it scared me. I got back through fright. But I awoke in that water through feeling. Now, I'm not afraid of what I'm doing. My only concern is to get back and take care of my obligations to life, which is my wife and my daughter. Now, how to get back? I'm not afraid. I can't frighten myself because I am not afraid. But I thought feeling would do it. So I closed my eyes and I imagined that my head was on a pillow and that I could feel the pillow. And then for a little while, then I opened my eyes. I'm still standing in the corridor. I tried it again. And then by the third time, as I tried it, I could feel something under my head. And then I allowed it to remain, and suddenly I could feel it. I tried to open my eyes, and I couldn't this time. And instead of feeling that I am standing perpendicular, I feel I am standing in lying horizontally. So I felt, well, I must be back now. But I couldn't move my body. The body was cataleptic and frozen like this. Then in about, maybe 20 seconds or so, I could move this little finger. I couldn't open my eyes. In a little while, I could move it from the elbow down. And then with tremendous effort, I could move it. And I pushed it out I could feel the warm body of my wife. Then I knew I was back. I hadn't yet been able to open the eye. Then with a tremendous effort, I could open the lid and saw the familiar objects in the room that I had left behind me. Then I knew what makes everything real in this world. The Spirit of God dwells in me, and he is my own wonderful human imagination.